Let me start with something that might sting a little bit. You are probably wasting thousands of dollars every single year, and you have absolutely no idea it's happening. I'm not talking about your morning latte. I'm not talking about avocado toast. I'm not talking about any of the cliches that finance people love to lecture you about. I'm talking about 8 deeply ingrained spending habits that society has quietly trained you to believe are completely normal. Some of these are going to genuinely surprise you. I know, because when I finally sat down and tracked every single dollar leaving my account, I was honestly embarrassed by what I found. Not because I was broke, not because I was irresponsible, but because some of my biggest financial leaks had been hiding in plain sight, perfectly disguised as smart decisions. So today, I'm breaking down 8 things that are silently eating your bank account alive, and more importantly, what you should be doing instead. My name is Amy, and if you're into practical, no-nonsense money advice without the boring lectures, you are in the right place. Let's get straight into it. Number 1, and I'm starting here because nearly everyone watching this is guilty of it, streaming subscriptions. The average American now spends $552 a year on streaming services alone. Let that number actually sink in for a second. That's over $500 flowing out of your account annually toward Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Apple TV, Paramount Plus, and whatever new platform launched this month. And here's the kicker. 10% of people are paying for more than 5 services at the exact same time. Now, I'm absolutely not here to tell you that entertainment is a waste of money. It's not. But here's my real question for you. When was the last time you actually used all of those platforms in the same month? Be brutally honest with yourself right now. I bet there's at least one subscription you completely forgot you even had. I bet there's a platform sitting untouched on your phone that you haven't opened in weeks, maybe months, while it happily charges your card every 30 days like clockwork. Here's a framework I personally use that totally changed my perspective. Pick one of your streaming services and ask yourself this: how many hours would I need to watch this month to feel like it was genuinely worth the money? Let's say you decide 2 full shows is your threshold. If each show runs about 8 hours, that's 16 hours of content you'd need to consume on one single platform. Now multiply that across 4 different services. That's 64 hours of streaming you would need to get through in a single month just to break even on value. Is that realistically happening? Because it certainly isn't for me. Last year, I canceled 2 of my subscriptions, and I genuinely didn't miss them. Not even once. The truth is that most of us aren't actually paying for content we watch. We're paying for the illusion of having options available. We're paying for the psychological comfort of knowing something is there, even though we never press play. So here's what I want you to do right now. Open your bank statement, go through every single recurring charge, identify which services you actually used in the last 30 days. Cancel everything else immediately. You can always resubscribe later when something you genuinely want to watch comes out. That simple 5-minute audit could save you hundreds of dollars a year without changing your lifestyle whatsoever. Number 2, buying cheap. This one is counterintuitive because on the surface, grabbing the cheapest option seems like the financially responsible move. You're saving money, right? Not exactly. You've probably heard the expression, buy cheap, buy twice. It's a cliche because it keeps proving itself true over and over again. You grab the cheapest pair of headphones, and they break in 3 months. You buy the budget blender, and it dies after 6 uses. You get the discount shoes, and they fall apart before the season is over. Then you buy the replacement, and sometimes another replacement after that. By the end, you've spent more than if you'd simply bought something decent quality from the beginning. But here's the part that nobody ever talks about. Even when a cheap purchase is clearly not working, most of us flat out refuse to let it go. It sits in a drawer. It collects dust in a closet. It takes up space alongside a dozen other things that weren't worth what we paid for them. We keep these items because getting rid of them feels like admitting we made a mistake. This is actually a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the sunk cost fallacy. It's when you stick with something, a product, a habit, a job, sometimes even a relationship, not because it's working, but because you've already invested time or money and walking away feels like throwing that investment in the trash. You see this everywhere once you start looking for it. You're watching a movie at the cinema, and it's absolutely terrible. You're bored out of your mind. But you stay until the end because you paid for the ticket. Now imagine watching the exact same movie at home, for free. You'd turn it off in 15 minutes without a second thought. The only difference between those 2 scenarios is what you've already spent. The same pattern applies to cheap purchases sitting in your closet. You hold on to them long past their usefulness because discarding them feels wasteful. But here's the reality check you need to hear. Keeping something useless does not get your money back. It just costs you space, mental energy, and clutter. Sometimes it costs you even more money down the line. So before you automatically reach for the cheapest option, ask yourself 2 questions. First, how often will you actually use this item? If it's something you touch every single day, skimping is almost never worth the frustration. If it's something you use once a year, spending a fortune doesn't make sense either. Second, do you even need it at all? A huge number of cheap purchases never get used because they were never solving a real problem in the first place. Number 3, upgrading your phone every single year. Are you someone who grabs the newest model the moment it drops? If so, you are far from alone. 25% of Americans now expect to upgrade their phone within 1 to 2 years, compared to just 15% back in 2023. And I totally understand the pull. When the cost is spread across small monthly payments, and you can trade in your old device, it barely registers as real spending. I used to be exactly this person. Every single year, brand new phone, 0 questions asked. It felt mandatory. Then, about 4 years ago, I just stopped cold. My current phone is over 3 years old. It has scratches on the side, the battery isn't what it used to be, but it works perfectly fine for everything I actually need it to do. If I'd kept upgrading like clockwork, that's easily another $2,000 to $3,000 completely gone. Let me break down the math, because the numbers are genuinely shocking when you see them laid out. Say you're paying around $45 a month for your phone on a contract. Over 2 years, that adds up to just over $1,000. Keep repeating that cycle every couple of years, and over a decade, you've easily spent $5,000, $6,000, maybe $7,000 extra dollars on phones alone. That's a vacation. That's an emergency fund. That's a real investment. Here's another angle worth considering. You might be paying a premium for features you will literally never use. As of early 2026, an iPhone 17 starts at $1,029 for the 512 gigabytes model. But you could save $200 by choosing the 256 gigabytes version. Grab a 128 GB iPhone 16 for $829, or go with the 128 GB i16e at $599, and pocket over $400 in savings just by being honest about your actual storage needs. If your current phone isn't broken, simply waiting 1 more year is one of the easiest money wins available to you. And if your contract is up, switching to a SIM-only plan until your device truly dies is a no-brainer. Of course, if having the absolute latest technology genuinely brings you joy, and you've budgeted for it, go for it. I just want you to see exactly how much that decision is costing you, so you can weigh it against everything else you could do with that money. Number 4, buying a bigger home than you actually need. This is one of the most expensive traps people fall into, and it usually starts with a single moment of temptation. Here's how the story typically unfolds. You apply for a mortgage with a rough number in mind. Maybe you're looking at a home for $500,000. You've saved $50,000 for a down payment, so you need $450,000 from the lender. Straightforward. But then the bank comes back and says, actually, we can offer you $500,000, maybe even $600,000. Suddenly, your imagination starts running wild. A better neighborhood, an extra bedroom, a bigger kitchen. If the monthly payments still look manageable at today's rates, saying no feels almost irrational. This is exactly where you need to slow down and look at the real numbers. Borrow $450,000 at 4% over 30 years, and your total repayment comes to roughly $773,000. That includes your original loan, plus over $323,000 in pure interest. Now bump that loan to $550,000 with the same rate and term. Your total repayment leaps to over $944,000, nearly $400,000 going straight to interest. The gap between those two scenarios is enormous, and that's before you factor in the higher ongoing costs of a bigger property. Larger energy bills, higher property taxes, more maintenance and repairs, more furniture to fill the space. These expenses don't hit all at once, which is precisely why they're so dangerously easy to underestimate. Here's something I really need you to hear. There is no universal rule saying you need a specific home size at any particular stage of life. You can absolutely live in a 1-bedroom apartment with a baby. Your kids do not need their own rooms from day one. Society might make you feel like you're behind, but society is not making your mortgage payments. Staying smaller for longer keeps your fixed costs low. and gives your budget breathing room for things that actually matter to you. So instead of defaulting to what everyone else seems to be doing, figure out what you genuinely need right now and decide from there. Okay, we're at the halfway mark. And if you're still watching, that tells me you're genuinely serious about getting smarter with your money. So I need to ask you a quick favor. Hit the subscribe button right now. I put out videos like this every single week, and subscribing is literally the best way to make sure you never miss one. It takes 1 second, costs you absolutely nothing, and it helps this channel grow so I can keep making this content for you. Seriously, just tap the button. I'll wait. Done? Amazing. Let's keep going. Number 5. Diamonds. You've probably heard that an engagement ring should cost 1 month's salary, or 2, or even 3. That idea is so deeply embedded in our culture that most people assume it's some ancient tradition passed down through generations. It's not. That rule came from an advertising campaign by the diamond company De Beers. It started as 1 month's salary, and over the decades it quietly crept upward because the industry wanted to sell more expensive rings. That's the entire origin story. A corporation told you to spend more, and you believed it. Now, if diamonds genuinely bring you joy and you've budgeted responsibly, I'm not going to tell you to stop. But before you make that purchase, whether for yourself or someone you love, there are things worth knowing. Most engagement rings lose a significant chunk of their value the second you leave the store. Not because they're low quality, but because retail markups in the jewelry world are massive. Even if you never plan to resell, that value drop reveals how much of the price tag is branding and marketing, rather than the stone itself. This is precisely why buying secondhand or vintage can be incredibly smart. You can also save thousands by choosing a lab-grown diamond. Many people assume lab-grown means fake. It doesn't. Lab-grown diamonds are made of the same material as mined diamonds. Even trained gemologists can't distinguish them without specialist equipment. The only real difference is price. Lab-grown diamonds typically cost 30 to 70% less for the same size and quality. I experienced this firsthand. I lost a pair of real diamond earrings I'd bought myself as a birthday gift. When I went to replace them, I explored lab-grown options. I showed the jeweler a photo, and they recreated them in the same quality for a fraction of what I'd originally paid. I could not tell the difference, and neither could anyone else. The point isn't about spending as little as possible. If a beautiful diamond ring matters to you, honor that completely. The waste happens when people spend enormous sums without ever questioning where those expectations came from or what alternatives exist. Number 6. Extended warranties. Picture this scenario. You've done your research, you found the perfect laptop or TV or kitchen appliance, you're happy with the price, ready to check out, and then right before you confirm, a little pop-up appears. Would you like to add an extended warranty for just $5 a month? Seems small. Seems sensible. Better safe than sorry, right? Here's what retailers don't want you to know. Most products do not break during the extended warranty period. When something does fail, the repair cost is frequently less than what you already paid for the warranty itself. In the majority of cases, you've spent money protecting yourself against a problem that either never materialized or would have been cheaper to handle out of pocket. And here's the part that genuinely surprises people. You're likely already covered multiple times over. Most products include a manufacturer's warranty lasting at least a year. Retailers often have their own return and repair policies stacked on top. If you paid by credit card, there's a strong chance your card automatically extends warranty coverage on purchases. You could be triple protected without realizing it. Extended warranties get pushed aggressively at checkout. For one reason, they're wildly profitable for the companies selling them. The overwhelming majority of buyers never file a claim. That's exactly how the entire model works. So what's the smarter move? Build your own small repair fund. Set aside a modest amount each month into a separate account. If something breaks out of warranty, you're covered. If nothing breaks, you keep every penny. That's a far better arrangement than handing your money to a corporation on the off chance something goes wrong. Number 7. Luxury purchases you've convinced yourself are investments. Let me set the scene. You're eyeing something expensive. Maybe it's a designer bag. Maybe it's a premium office chair. Maybe it's a high-end gadget you don't strictly need. You know it's a lot of money, so your brain immediately starts building a case. The most common justification sounds like this. It's an investment. I'll use it for years. It'll save me money in the long run. The instant that narrative takes root, something fascinating happens psychologically. You start noticing evidence that supports your decision. Glowing reviews about durability, articles about productivity gains, People online insisting it's worth every penny. Meanwhile, you unconsciously filter out everything that contradicts your conclusion. The negative reviews vanish. The cheaper alternatives become invisible. This is called confirmation bias. When we want something badly enough, our brains become expert defense attorneys, passionately arguing the case for purchase while dismissing every single objection. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Calling something an investment doesn't make it one. A genuine investment grows in value. It generates income. It improves your financial position. That designer bag won't do any of those things. Neither will the fancy chair. They might make your life more enjoyable, and that's honestly a perfectly valid reason to buy something. You do not need to disguise a want as a need. You don't need to dress up spending as strategy to give yourself permission to enjoy nice things. Just be honest about what it is. Categorize it correctly in your budget, then make the decision with total clarity, so you never fool yourself into overspending while thinking you're being financially savvy. Number 8, and I know this one might ruffle some feathers. Weddings. Before anyone comes for me, let me be absolutely clear. I am not calling weddings a waste of money. A wedding is one of the very few occasions in your entire life when every single person you and your partner love will be gathered together in one room. That is genuinely priceless. It deserves celebration, and yes, it deserves money. The real question is, how much? Here's how the spending spiral usually begins. One of the first things you do is visit a venue. Someone gives you a lovely tour, maybe hands you a glass of champagne. At the end, you receive a brochure with pricing. For some couples, that figure is an instant budget shock. For others, and I've watched this happen with my own friends, the venue price actually comes in lower than expected. So they eagerly lock in a date, tell everyone, and start planning everything around it. That's precisely when costs start quietly exploding. Dresses, suits, photographers, DJs, florists, hair and makeup, invitations, and on top of everything, the venue starts tacking on charges for things you assumed were included. Reception drinks, cake cutting fees, the room the night before. Suddenly, the number you were comfortable with has doubled, or worse. And because your friends have already had their weddings, you feel pressure to match everything they did, even if it means demolishing your budget. Since most people only do this once, every budget rule starts to feel negotiable. You tell yourself it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, and it'll all be worth it. Maybe it will. But if you end up borrowing money to pay for your wedding day, things have gone too far. The absolute last thing you want at the start of a marriage is debt from the celebration that launched it. So here's my advice. Before you visit a single venue or try on a single outfit, write down exactly what you can afford. List the elements that genuinely matter to both of you, and give yourselves full permission to skip everything else. Saying no to family expectations is difficult. I know. But doing it early saves enormous stress later, especially when they're not the ones writing the checks. So let me wrap this up with something I think is really important. I don't want anyone walking away from this video thinking I'm shaming you for spending money on things that make you happy. That is absolutely not the point. I've made expensive mistakes myself. I don't always maximize my own subscriptions. I've bought things I later regretted. I've let emotion drive financial decisions more times than I'd like to admit. The difference now is that I've built a system around my money. I budget for big purchases intentionally. I review my spending regularly. When I make a mistake, I catch it fast and course correct before it spirals into something bigger. That's what real financial awareness looks like. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about making sure your money flows toward things you actually care about, not things that society, marketing teams, or peer pressure decided you should care about. If this video helped you identify even one spending habit you hadn't considered before, drop a comment and tell me which one hit the hardest. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to hear from you. Are there money traps I missed? Let me know, because your ideas often inspire future videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a video. I'm Amy, and I will see you in the next one.